I'm blessed and free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So if you guys are tuning in for the first time on this channel, we talk about crime, prison, jail, the criminal justice system, and just how fucked up things are in all of those. If you haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment on the way out. So I had this guest on before. We did an interview. This is going to be part 2 to that interview. And we kind of left off where he was getting ready to go into Rikers Island. And if you guys know about that, it's a notorious jail in New York. So we're going to hear about the ins and outs of what goes on in Rikers Island. So, man, you want just so people tuning in for the first time don't know you, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people at home watching?
First and foremost, I just want to congratulate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I know Josh is down in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm a big Brady fan. I'm not a big sports fan. Michigan fan, so I just want to give a shout out. Congratulations to all the Florida residents down there. Got their Tampa Bay trophy. My name is Anthony Russo. They call me Hootie in the streets. Got the name about 14 years old. I was involved with Cosa Nostra my whole life. I grew up in what they would call a farm system for Cosa Nostra, 101st Avenue. That leads from Liberty Avenue in Ozone Park, Liberty Avenue in East New York, Brooklyn, all the way through to Ozone Park. I started out in the drug game, always around Cosa Nostra, but into Brooklyn area because I was so close because I grew up during the crack era at the tail end of when it was really, really bad. It went on for a while. So I went from everything from cooking crack to pushing kilos to getting a pipeline for marijuana, hydro, high end, to all pharmaceuticals was probably my skid bid for 2 Flat upstate, where probably most of my jail time was spent on Rikers Island. So I was very entwined in all drugs except heroin and meth. We didn't believe in heroin and meth and selling women. We were totally against anything to do with hurting women or exploiting women. And the same thing with heroin and meth. It's lifelong drugs. And when the pandemic got bad with the pills, we got out of that right away as well. When I was pushing pharmaceuticals, it was Vicodin. People didn't really know about anything else. Xanaxes weren't even selling on the streets at the time. Oxys were nowhere to be found. Percocets were just hitting the market. And then when I came home, it was a national pandemic and we never touched it again, stood away from it. And that's where my jail time really began. Back in my mid-20s, I got pinched for a bookmaking operation in the state, which is very rare. But New York State has an organized crime task force, probably stronger than the FBI's. The FBI is a little bit more powerful because they got more resources, more money, better education. But street smarts and knowing the ins and outs of Cosa Nostra, the state of New York knows a lot more. And they have their own crime unit. A lot of people don't know that. It's called enterprise corruption. It's not called RICO. In the feds, it's called RICO. In the state of New York, it's called enterprise corruption. So I get pinched on an enterprise corruption. And I'm looking down the barrel at like a 2 to 4 for a bookmaking charge, which years ago when I first started as a bookmaker, when I was a kid, I got pinched, I got a fine and 3 days community service as a teenager. This time I was a little bit older. It was getting a little worse. We were part of the Gambino crime family, part of the Gotti regime. So it's a little bit harder. They get a little bit harder on you. Close friends of mine that I considered brothers were made guys and captains. And the guy that mentored me was a high, powerful boss in my area. We didn't consider him a captain. We considered him a boss, as we considered John Sr. a boss, same thing. So that was my first experience. I wind up pleading out just to, keep it to a 6.5. A 6.5 is 6 months to do time, county time, you would call it. It's city time for us. We don't consider that county time, even though it's in the county of Queens, Rikers Island is. But it's a world of itself. It's on an island. You can only reach it through a bridge or by airplane, a helicopter, or boat, and you can't go over that bridge.
Is Rikers Island, isn't it like an old boat? Like I heard it was like a Navy ship turned into a jail. Is that true or no?
They have a barge in the Bronx that sits there that can't move. And it's a holding place that they consider part of Rikers Island, but they call it the Love Boat because a lot of people want to go there because there's not too many beefs that you're really on top of each other. It's mostly dorms. If you're pretty violent or drug offenses, they ship you usually if you get pinched in the county of Queens, you go to the boat. Like everybody in the boats from from Far Rockaway, Ozone Park, Howard Beach, go right to the boat. But most of the time, a guy like me, I want to be in the action. I don't want to be sitting in the dorm all day. You know, a lot of guys want that because they don't want no beefs on Rikers Island, especially if you're white. I mean, they consider Italians different than the regular white guy. I mean, listen, we're white. I understand. I'm not saying there's no different. There's difference in that, but a lot of jails consider Italians different, and we get left alone. But everybody gets tested on Rikers Island. I don't care who you are.
So what would happen if I walked into Rikers Island? What would it look like?
You get tested as soon. Not you don't even get. You know when you go up to the gate, Josh. You've been to jail, right? You go to the gate. They open the gate. You walk in with your bag. They're waiting right at the gate. The chain gang, the COs turn their back, and you get washed up. You get your shit taken, and how you perform. A guy like you with your accent, sounding you from Florida, they're gonna, they'll call you a guy like Whitey White. You know, you're Whitey White to them.
Whitey White.
Only because they don't know that it's a Florida accent. For them, it's like, yo, that's a white guy accent. They don't know that you come from Florida. You know what I mean? They wouldn't know that. But if you perform and you go for yours, you'll get your shit back, and they probably wouldn't test you again. You might get tested for your commissary, but if you fight and you stand up for yourself, win or lose, somebody will respect you along that road. Because I wind up going back just recently when I came home from the feds in 2015. I got locked up 5 times my first year home. And I was changing. Yeah, I was changing my life. I was trying to, you got to understand, my whole life, I never had a job till 2016. I'm 43 years old. So it was hard for me to adjust. And
yeah, definitely.
Thank God I had an understanding federal judge, because that's who you go back in front of in the feds. You, like in the state, you just go in front of a magistrate. They'll violate you. They send you back upstate for 18 months, whatever's left on your parole. I had 5 years on paper at this point. And a lot of people get 3 years on paper. I don't know why I got 5. I know why. I mean, of course I know why. They wanted to fuck me because I, didn't want to help them. So I come home and everything's assaults, fighting with the ex, arguments. I mean, once they come, the cops, and they run your name.
Wrap.
Once they run your name and they see that sheet a mile long, they're taking you in. If you're a regular guy that they think goes to work every day, they might give you a warning or maybe one of those border protection bullshit things. But a guy like me, they're putting in the squad car, putting the cuffs on, putting you through the shit, see if they can get anything from you. A lot of guys already know you're not going to get nothing from you, so they put you through bullpens, and holding cells, and interrogation rooms, and no one will even speak to you. But that's what they'll keep doing to make you think that. And if they got a little something that's a little concrete, or if they could get a statement signed against you, they want to get you right to Rikers Island. But being in Queens, majority of the time you go to the boat, which we were talking about. You said it's called the Bronx Barge. It's part of Rikers Island because you can reach it from the island. It's both on the water. But this is connected to the land. It shakes and it moves, but it's connected to the land. It can't run. And a lot of people call it the love boat because compared to Rikers Island itself, there's not too many beefs in that place. So everybody wants to stay there. There's no trouble. I get out of there right away. I sign out, tell them who I am. I'm high classified. I can't be in this building. Send me to the wherever the cells are, wherever, high profile dorms are. Just get, I can't be here. I need to be in the action.
How does the politics work in Rikers Island? Like with gangs, like what happens when you go in if you're not affiliated? What happens if you go in and you are affiliated? And are the gangs running like the phones, where you sit, who you sell with? Is that like how it goes down in there?
Everything you just said is exactly how it goes down. But I'm going to start you at the beginning real fast and give you the whole breakdown.
All
1993, the Bloods are formed on the East Coast. Where are they formed? On Rikers Island. Not in the hood, not in the Bronx, not in Brooklyn, on Rikers Island. What happened was the Latin Kings were well established. They ran it like a crime family, lieutenants, captains, soldiers, knuckle scrapers, meaning fighters, money collectors, extortion rings. And they were running the blacks off of Rikers Island because there was so many of them organized. The Latin Kings ran all the jails, from Chicago to New York, everywhere, because they were so established for so long. So in 1993, guy comes up with an idea and says, let's unite all the blacks together so we can stand up against the Spanish. And that's what they did in 1993. The island was even wilder in the 80s when there was no Bloods. It was just Latin Kings. There was no other gangs. cutting, stabbings. It was just a free for all. It was pretty bad. You know, people think it's bad now because of the Bloods. I know guys that were there in the 80s, and it was worse in 88, 89. I was an adolescent then. I might have hit the 4 building if I would have gotten in trouble, but probably not. I probably would have hit Spofford in the Bronx. I was a little older by the time I got there, so I skipped that part. So 93, they formed the Bloods to go up against the Kings. Now, the blacks and the Spanish in jail hate each other more than the Spanish hate the whites and more than the blacks hate the whites. But since the whites are the ones that they think have the money, and they automatically, if you're white, you have money in jail, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I went to jail broke so many times, and I made a ton of money in the streets. So that's just the way the street life goes. One day you got money, one day you don't. Well,
Right.
Smart people save it, you know? So that's how it worked. So it was like, now we can't rest on some of the black guys because they have the Bloods behind them, because they're blood. The Crips weren't formed yet. The Crips came later on, because wherever the Bloods went, the Crips went. Where in LA, the Rolling 60s, they were formed first. Yeah, they were formed first. They were the first street gang in LA. They were the Crips, and then the Bloods were formed because of that. In the East Coast, it was the opposite. The Bloods were formed, and then the Crips came later on. But like I said, all the blacks came together. They formed the Bloods. Now, the Spanish can't go up against certain blacks because of that. So they start going after the whites, shaking them down. They got the money. They're the weak ones. They're not, they don't have power in here. We don't have numbers, so that's just the way it worked. Now, you could sit on Rikers Island. I went back, the rapper Casanova, he's from Brooklyn. Right?
Yeah,
He's the
just
Blood.
turned himself in, right?
Yeah. Well, when I was there, I went to Rikers Island. I laid up for 4 months or so. I bail out. I go back a year later. When I was there for the 4 months, Casanova's name was known on the island because he was already in the box for like 2 years. So with that, I go back. He's still in the box. He did 3 years in the box while I was fighting the case for 3 years.
Damn, bro.
Going back and forth. So that's the type of place this is. Not only was he there, this is supposed to be a county jail, but it's a city jail. You're not supposed to waste that much time there. But there's guys 5 years waiting trial. They held that kid that they did the biography on, that Jay-Z was trying
Broder,
to help.
right? Broder or something?
Yeah.
Jay-Z was like a part of that, right? Yeah.
Jay-Z.
Yeah, that kid killed himself.
Hung himself. He couldn't. But you know what? He was a tough kid. He was a stand-up kid. He was by himself. He wouldn't join nobody. He fought. He never backed down. But it fucked up his head. And he was never in the. I don't think he did box time. But it's just the place itself fucked him up because he didn't do the crime. And they
beat him down, bro. Decent.
Yeah.
But he was still fighting, so.
Yeah, they showed he knocked out a few guys. He was a tough kid. Khalif Brower.
Yeah, there you go. Right. That's his name. Yeah. Right.
And Jay-Z actually calls him a Martha, actually. And I watched the documentary. I knew the story. And they held him for 3 years without charging him. Like, this is the shit that goes on Rikers Island. Because the kid that said that he robbed them wound up going back to his country. It was over a backpack.
I know. It's crazy, dog. I watched that too.
They held this guy for 3 years because they were trying to get the guy to come forward, but they couldn't find them. You can't find these guys that live in the ghetto or the hood, and they got 17 different last names, and you don't know who. I'm saying they go back to El Salvador, or I don't know, the guy was some kind of Hispanic or something. And they held this poor kid for 3 years. And to most people, what he went through, and he was a tough kid, just not a troublemaker. He was a nice kid. They would have flew through that 3 years, but it broke him down to where even when he came home, they were interviewing him, and he seemed like he was okay, and he just couldn't deal with what happened to him mentally, that they put him through this for 3 years, and he hung up. And this is what that place does to you. Like, I went back, but like Casanova was laughing in the box when I left. When I came back, he was still laughing. He did 3 years in the box on a county jail, which is like unheard of, and he was washing guys up. They wouldn't give him bunkies. This is just a for instance, because that was where during that time frame, I went back and forth twice, and that was still going on. And this is the place. I mean, they got a building called OBCC, and they call it, the nickname is Only Bloods Cutting Crips. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane, because there's more blood houses on Rikers Island than Crip houses. And there's probably they probably got more numbers now than the Latin Kings in these prisons. So they come up, they form that. Now, the white guy stands no chance because before it was a free for all. And
Yeah,
now it's like,
did you see the documentary about what you're talking about? They have a Latin King documentary with King Tone.
yeah.
And I forget who it was, but before King Tone came along, they were all murdering people on the street, and the head of the Latin Kings was in Rikers Island, or a federal holding building, and all the kings were at rec one day, and they're all on the top of the building at rec, and there's like 6 of them, and they're looking to, you know, the leader, and they're like, hey man, you know, what are we going to do now? Like, we're all fucked up in here. And he said, we're going to do life. And that's where
King Blood.
Yeah, King Blood. Yep. Yeah.
He's from Chicago. He brought it from Chicago to New York.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a good documentary.
But in New York, it's infamous. You don't even got to watch the documentary. You know all about it. King Blood was skinny, Hispanic
regular
guy,
looking dude, man.
Timid, not timid, scared, but very soft spoken.
Yeah.
He lost all his rights. They finally took him out of state prison. They put him in federal prison. He can't get mail. He can't get visits. His lawyer visits got to be through glass. He's on one of the worst. Like, I don't think El Chapo's got it as bad as he does, because King Blood was sending out hits.
Yeah, in the mail.
Cell.
Yep.
In the mail through codes, you know. And King Blood was like one of the most respected. And that's what you just said is 100% the truth. Because of course there was a lot of informants in the Latin Kings that said he put it out, and like, we're either gonna do life for this, or we're gonna do this life. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
We're gonna survive this life, or we're gonna do life. And he led by example.
Yeah, too many people aren't built like that anymore.
No. I mean, listen, you got guys, Big Meech, Supreme, John Senior, you know, Vinny Gorgeous, guys like that. They come in lifetimes, these guys, you know, and it's like, we're gonna do it for the life, or we're gonna do the life. It's one or the other. And these guys, and King Blood is a pure example. I don't think anybody has it as bad as he does right now. I think he's still in ADX, Florence, Colorado, which is the worst prison in the world practically. El Chapo don't want to be there. You know what I mean? And so
he's trying to escape.
These guys live in holes. These guys live in holes. You know what I mean? They can survive in holes, and they don't want to be in this place.
Yeah, that says a lot about how it is there.
You know, but you even hear these guys talk about Rikers Island. Like, you know, it's just you walk into this place, it's a hellhole. You know, I was in a holding cell in Rikers Island for 3 days. Eventually, you're leaning on people. You're gonna get into a beef. There's 20 guys. It's maybe 20 feet. It's a holding cell, so it's a little bit bigger than a cell. You're sleeping on a dirty floor. They don't mop it. They don't clean it. And you want to know the crazy part? There's no laundry on Rikers Island. So for 90 days, I'm fighting with my ex-wife. I can't get in touch with my family. You can only call locally. You get 4 phone calls on a Sunday, and that's it if you don't have money in your account. And you can only call locally, so I couldn't call, say, another town, a 51. You know, if I'm calling 718, I couldn't call an 807 or a 516 or anything like that to get in touch. So I spent 90 days in the same sweatsuit, t-shirt, underwear, and socks. So I had to wash my underwear, because your family has to bring in your laundry. You can give them your old clothes. Don't have to be like when you go somewhere, it's got to be brand new. It's got to be under 55. Rikers Island, they bring you in a bag of laundry. You give them a bag of laundry, take back. There's no laundry on Rikers Island. That's insane. Now,
the clothes that you're wearing when you go into booking are the clothes you're going to keep until somebody brings you in brand new clothes?
There's guys walking around in leather jackets, Louis Vuitton shirts, suits, whatever they get locked up in, they leave you in. The only thing they don't let you keep, because I went in with Tim's once, Timberland boots, and they took them from me and gave me Pataki. We called them Patakis at the time, because it was their government issued. So we
like
state issued.
Bob Barkers.
The Bob Barkers, right? But they're state issued. So Pataki was the governor at the time, so they called them Patakis. They call orange decks. You know what decks are? So they were orange. So I was in orange decks, which they're the hardest things to fight in, because I wound up getting into a fight with a blood, and this was the weakest house I was in, because your classification drops when you're on Rikers Island. You know, you're good. You put a little time in, your classification gets lower, or something happens in your case, or if you get a deal that's lower, Like, say you get offered 6 months and then you get offered 90 days, your classification will drop and they'll move you. So I wind up in like a misdemeanor house. So that's like a violation house. So it's like, nobody, there's really nobody in there. Everybody's going back that just came home that got in trouble, smoking weed, a dirty urine, a fight, driving without a license while on parole, just things like that. And I think I got into 3 fights in like 4 months. It was crazy. And I'm like, how's it? This is supposed to be like a sweet place. Like, you're in a dorm, you're not in cells, you're in dorms, you're sleeping next to each other. And it was just wilding out. It's because that's what the building is, and it's next to a building called the MO house. MO means crazy. In the state of New York, 730, if they consider you 730, that means you're crazy. People got the nickname 730. There's a ton of 730s running around that we just think are crazy. But it's literally, you could get a check from the government for being crazy. You're considered 730. And this is where I tell people where God and country don't exist. Young kids growing up, maybe crack babies, heroin babies, in the streets, don't believe in anything. They don't know what God is. They don't know what country is. They don't understand life. And if I applied for a job, because you have to have a suicide watch in that place, these kids hang up. They'll kill themselves. They can't get put in a mental institution. Like, we got Creedmoor and Bellevue. They can't go there. It's crazy for that. They can't go to the box. That's why it's called once you go to the MO house, that's where you are. There's no box time. They stab COs. They get new charge. They don't get it. The rest of their lives are going to be spent in this place. That's it. And you don't think that places like this exist in the world, but it is. And like they say, oh, Mexican jails. This building is the worst. So like, if I applied for a job to do suicide watch, because that pays the most on Rikers Island, is suicide watch. When you get a job, they won't hire me. You can't be a white guy and work suicide watch. They'll kill you. Because I was with a kid that just did 10 joints and he was a Crip. And he would come back every night complaining, yo, Russo, man, these fucking kids, one kid shit in his hand and threw it at me. Like that, just off. Man. Yeah, man. And this building. So when these kids moved, like usually when they move high, like when I first went to Rikers Island, I was 20-something years old. And I look like, my picture's up on my, on the at Hootie282 on my Instagram, long pushback hair, light eyes.
Yeah, you kind of look like me back in the day, man. You're like a pretty boy, but some swag.
Yeah. So that's walking into Rikers Island at 150 pounds, 20-something years old.
Yeah, they're gonna test that
right away as soon as you get to the gate. And then they hear your last name, they know you're Italian. Some lay off. I'm not gonna lie, they did. But I got tested. I had a fight. You really can't. Unless the guy's just a monster and he wants to pick on you, you don't really get creamed. If it's a one-on-one or you're fighting by yourself, you're not going to get shanked. You get shanked over fucking somebody's bitch. You know how it is in jail. 3 things you don't do. You don't fuck with the drugs, you don't fuck with the gambling, and you don't fuck with somebody's bitch. Meaning somebody's gay. Punks. Somebody's got punks. Right.
I've heard a lot of like legendary booty bandits that were at Rikers Island. I follow a couple people on their podcast and they're always talking about that. How does that go down in Rikers Island? Because in Florida, like their finesse game's really good. There is rape, but that's rare. How does it go down in Rikers? Like, are they taking it or are they finessing it?
Both, but most of the time, the booty bandits are taking it. Those are hardcore thugs that are just grabbing it. And those are the guys that are coming down. They already got life for 300 years. And this is why, like, my classification, 30 is the highest classification you can have. At my highest, I was a 27. That's like extremely high. You're at the max. So now I'm on a drug charge and I'm on a 27. Now I'm sitting with these guys that are at 30. They're maxed out. They got life. They're coming back down for no reason because you got life. Why you even bringing these guys back down to fight cases? Well, they've been on Rikers Island for 4 years and they know they're never going home. They're going to eventually end up in Auburn, Elmira, Sing Sing, and one of these maxes, Clinton down more, whatever. So they're booty bandits and they're just going to take it. They see a pretty boy, they're going to rip you up no matter what. You know what I mean? But you're going to fight for yours. They see you're really not down. They don't want to mess with it. They don't want to go to the box. They want to stay where they are. They'll leave you alone. Some guys just give it up, like Oz. Oz was a little overboard, but like an Oz, guys would just, listen, take it. I don't want to get stabbed in my ass,
Crazy.
I could get, but some people just give it up. If they see it's too much of a fight, they'll leave you alone. But when they see you're Italian and they know you stand up, you do get an edge. I'm not going to lie. But you get tested with fighting. You know, you definitely, but the booty bandits are around. You know, it's like in the feds. A lot of guys, you know, DC guys, Carolina guys that are doing 1,000 years. These dudes are straight up killers and gangsters and monsters, and they're just ripping booties. They're just snatching asses. You know,
That's
walking
crazy.
around. They're walking around with a little Spanish dude holding the back pocket. You know how it is with their pocket.
Yeah,
Walking around,
hang on, buddy.
You know, yeah, and he's walking around holding the dude's pocket. You know what I mean, on the compound. You know, that goes down.
Do you
But
guys have
like,
the gunners in Rikers Island?
oh, they do that all the time.
That's
all
yeah,
the
we
time.
have that in Florida, bro. That shit's crazy, man. It's like
But those guys have a special thing for guys like that. They'll shut the cameras off and put 6 COs in there with the sticks. We call them turtles.
yeah.
Whenever there's they come in and they're the regular COs.
The goon squad.
But we call them Ninja Turtles because they look like Ninja Turtles. You can't see them. They got the mask that comes down to here, then the mask that goes up to here, full body shield, and you can only see to their feet. And they always, when they're walking through to go to a house, and they got the long white sticks, when they're going to a house to get somebody, face the wall, meaning you got to turn around. You can't face the wall. And they look for you purposely. If you turn your head just a little bit, I watched the kid right next to me get his head cracked open. You can't look at them because you'll know who they are. And when they come to your house to work a regular shift, you'll get them because you want to get the Ninja Turtles because these guys are motherfuckers. And they go after the guys that go after the women COs. You go after a woman CO, it's over. They're going to get you, and they're going to get you good. They're not going to give you a new charge. They're not going to do anything. It's going to go off the record. They're going to go into the dorm. They're going to put everybody on one side of the dorm so they can't see. And 6 of these guys are going to go to work on you. And you might get put in a coma. You might not make it out of there.
Yeah, in Florida, when they put you in confinement for gunning, they put a 1-9 on your door. So every officer that comes in knows you're in there for gunning, and they torture those guys, bro. Leave them in there, spray them, beat their ass like every other day. It's not like you just get your ass beat once. They go back and, you know, give you the business like 3 times a week. So yeah, that shit's crazy. It's like raping someone, man.
It's exactly. Listen, it's taking somebody's life. You know how many guys have died on Rikers Island that you don't even know about? I mean, they just started reporting them recently, and the COs turned their back. But with that, a lot of the guys try to finesse. That's where they finesse the women COs. You know what I mean? They try to talk to them and get conversation out of them. The crazy guys are the ones that gun.
Yeah, like the 2 guys that escaped from that prison in New York. They finessed the shit out of that bitch.
Well, she wasn't a CO. She was a civilian. The
yeah,
civilians they always break the civilians. They always break the civilians.
Yeah, that was a crazy story, man.
You know, the COs, they got pensions, they got families, and most of the COs are from the hood. They know a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? Because that's what they try to hire, where the NYPD fucked up because they started hiring college-educated kids and stopped hiring street guys. You know, guys that grew up in the street that were legitimate. You know, but were tough guys. That's where the NYPD, when you started needing this 4-year degree, and the guy's got an MBA and he could join the police force. That should never happen because the guy could pass the test. So with that, Rikers Island, they hire straight up thugs. You don't see too many white COs. My last time I was there, I was very close with this guy who worked out in a gym that I knew of and used to see each other. And I was talking to him. And when they used to send him to the box, now this guy's telling you, doing 3-4 years in the box. He said he would have sex on a Friday with his girl, come in on a Sunday to work the box, and they would smell it on him.
Damn.
They were like, yo, and they would, he would say, yo, I can't, the week I know I was working the box, I couldn't sleep with my girl because they would give me nothing but hell. These guys wouldn't leave me alone. Like, yo, how was she? What'd you do? Did you put it in her mouth? Did you put it in her? Yeah, he was like, and I'm like, wow, man. I'm like, these guys are bidding like inmates here. You can't have sex because you're worried about the guy smelling it on you in the box. This is how crazy this place is. And half these COs,
that's certified right there.
They recommend these COs to see psychiatrists for working in this building.
So we're going to wrap up today's interview. He went upstate. He was on 3 years home confinement. We're going to get into that in another episode. But hey, man, did you want to give the people watching at home how they can get in contact with you? You got a podcast or anything like that? You can go ahead and do that now.
Right. I got a new YouTube channel called The Hootie and JC Show. Go to it. The episodes are great. We answer all questions. We're doing Q&As all the time. You can get me on Instagram at Hootie282. There's also an Instagram of Hootie and JC Show. I get back to everybody personally within 24 hours. Any questions asked that I can answer, I'll answer. If not, I'll answer them on the show, but they eventually will get answered. I rather use ask the questions on YouTube. So, because that we print out daily, and we'll ask those questions, we'll answer those questions and give you a shout out. Shout out to JC, who's my co-host, and Mike Callie, and Bill Stacks, who's doing big things right now, part of the Hootie team, and we got a big platform for a lot of guys that are coming up, and of course, you know, my brother Gene Barillo and over at the Giant Gene Show and Johnny A-Light, shout out to them for paving the way for others, and you know, that's it. And of course, Josh, you, who we met through, you know, my good friend Bill Stacks, and I appreciate everything you're doing with your show. You're doing great things, man, and you're a very knowledgeable guy about prison. And I wouldn't come on your show if I didn't think it was 100% fact true.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate that, man. And I'll put a link to your new YouTube and your Instagram in the description of this video. So if anybody's watching, the links will be in the description. And man, I appreciate you coming back on. Looking forward to having you back on again to tell some more crazy life stories. If you guys watch and haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn those post notifications on all. So every time we drop an episode, you can hear it first. And with that, it's DOC TV, and we're out.